My name, Mike, and I guess I'll start by saying I never really thought I'd be the guy writing something like this. But here I am, trying to get this off my chest because I don't really have anyone else to talk to about what I found out, and honestly, it's still messing with my head. I've been married to Lisa for about 7 years now. We had a pretty good thing going. At least I thought so. She was the kind of wife who'd act like she was the boss of everything, always throwing tantrums if she didn't get her way, but she was also sharp, funny, and damn it, I loved her. Our relationship wasn't perfect, sure. We had our fights, mostly over money or her bitchy attitude when she thought I wasn't paying enough attention. I'll admit I wasn't always the best husband. I worked long hours, sometimes weekends, trying to keep everything afloat. She'd complain about that, but I told myself it was just stress, that she understood underneath her bitchy exterior. But looking back, I think I missed some signs that things were already starting to fall apart. Lately, I noticed little things. She'd be more secretive. With her phone, hide her texts, delete history. She started staying at her cousin's house more often, or so she said. I didn't question it much because honestly I was tired. But the weirdest thing was the house just felt off. Like there was a tension I couldn't put my finger on. It was in her eyes when she was home, the way she'd avoid certain questions or flat out lie about where she'd been. And then the final straw, our security logs. They showed something I couldn't ignore. I've got a home security system that logs every person who comes and goes. I figured it was just a precaution. Most people do these days, until I started noticing that on days she claimed to be at her cousin. An electrician named Mark was supposedly working on rewiring the house. I was never really comfortable with Mark. The guy was cheap and shady, but Lisa always insisted he was just doing his job. I ignored it at first, telling myself I was overthinking it. But then I noticed something strange. The logs showed Mark staying hours after he claimed the job was finished. I checked the recordings, and what I saw froze me in place. He'd come in, do a quick job, then disappear for an hour or more, only to reappear and keep working. Sometimes she'd call him in the middle of the day, and I saw her talking to him on the phone with that bitchy smirk she always has. It was like she enjoyed lying, enjoyed making me look stupid. I know she was having an affair, I just knew it. The way she'd act around him, flirty, touchy, laughing a little too hard at his stupid jokes, made it obvious. But what made it worse was the sneaking around, the secret meetings. One day I decided to check the security footage more closely. I'd been suspicious for a while, and I finally found what I needed. On a random Tuesday when she was at her cousin, Mark was still there, his truck parked outside for hours, longer than he needed to finish wiring. I saw them go into the bedroom, kissing. I saw her lying on top of him, hands all over, and then I saw them have sex. That's when I lost it. I watched it all happen, her moaning, him looking proud, and I felt my stomach turn inside out. I couldn't believe I had missed all this time. It was like my whole world cracked open with that footage. I couldn't pretend anymore that this was just a mistake or a misunderstanding. I knew she'd been cheating on me with that electrician. And the worst part, she lied to my face every single time I asked where she was, what she was doing. I don't know how I missed the signs for so long. Maybe I was busy, maybe I was blind, but now I couldn't pretend anymore. I saw everything in black and white, and suddenly I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. The feeling of betrayal was overwhelming. I felt like I had been a fool, giving her all this time, thinking she cared, thinking she loved me. Instead, she was out there, screwing some guy who rewired our house, while I was working my ass off to keep us afloat. I thought about confronting her then, but I needed time to process what I'd seen. I played the footage over and over, trying to make sense of it, trying to calm my racing mind. But I knew one thing, I couldn't ignore this anymore. If I stayed silent, I'd never be able to look at her the same way. So that's where I am now, just trying to figure out what to do next. The anger is still fresh, but so is the hurt. It's a mess, and honestly, I don't even know if I want to stay or walk away. But I do know I can't pretend I didn't see what I saw. I'm just glad I found out before I gave her another chance to lie to me again. After I watched the footage that night, I couldn't sleep. It kept replaying in my head, her lying on that guy, the way she looked in those moments, like she was completely lost in her own little world. I felt this rage building up inside me, hot and uncontrollable. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't ready yet. The shock was still sinking in, and I needed a plan. The next day, I kept my cool around her, but I was planning everything in my head. I was angry, yes, but also hurt. I felt like I'd been played for a fool for months, maybe longer. I started thinking about what I should say, how to get her to admit it outright. But I also knew if I just blurted it out, she'd deny everything and spin a web of lies. She was good at lying, that bitch. I decided to gather more evidence just in case I needed it. I started checking her phone, her emails, anything I could get my hands on without her noticing. I also decided to keep an eye on her schedule. She claimed she'd be working late one night, so I set up a little hidden camera in the living room, just enough to catch her if she made any calls or had visitors. That night, I sat in the dark, staring at the monitor, heart pounding. Sure enough, I saw her slip out of the house around 9 p.m. and she came back about 2 hours later. No calls, no anyone visiting, just her, sneaking in like she was hiding something. My stomach clenched again. I knew she was lying about her work nights. She was probably out with him or worse. I also reached out to an old friend, Tom, who was good with law stuff and could maybe tell me what steps to take legally if I decided to do something drastic. I wasn't sure if I wanted to ruin her life, but I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living with this secret, pretending everything was fine. I had to know how deep the betrayal went, how many nights she was sneaking around with Mark. And I also wanted to see if I could catch her in the act again, just to be sure. In the meantime, I kept my feelings bottled up. I was angry at her, furious even, but I also felt a deep sadness, like I was losing a part of myself. I thought about all the good times, the trips, the holidays. I thought about the future I'd imagined, now shattered by her lies. I kept asking myself why she did it, why she chose to betray me with some cheap electrician instead of just talking to me if she was unhappy. But no explanation seemed enough. All I knew was I couldn't trust her anymore. Not after what I'd seen, not after the lies. One afternoon, I decided to confront her about what I'd seen on the footage and the fact that I'd been spying on her. I figured honesty was the only way to get her to admit the truth. I told her I knew about Mark, about the affair, that I had all the evidence. Her reaction: she looked at me like I was crazy, laughed it off, told me I was paranoid. She even called me insecure, said I was imagining things. That's when I lost it. I told her I wasn't paranoid, she was, and she'd been lying to my face all this time. Her bitchy attitude only got worse, telling me I was overreacting, that I was crazy jealous and controlling. That moment made me realize how much she'd been gaslighting me. She was good at it, making me doubt myself, making me think I was the one with issues. But I was. I knew the truth, and I knew she'd been screwing around. It was just a matter of how to handle it now. I started to think about what I really wanted, whether I should keep fighting for us or just walk away. I was tired of the lies, tired of feeling like I was going insane. But the pain was real, and it hit me hard every time I remembered her face when she was with him. In the days that followed, I kept silent, gathering my thoughts. I didn't want to just blow up and say something I'd regret. I was trying to stay calm, but inside I was a mess. Every time I saw her, I wondered how much she was still lying, what else I didn't know. I kept asking myself if I could ever forgive her or if this was the end of our marriage. Part of me still hoped she'd come clean, admit everything, and maybe ask for forgiveness. But deep down, I knew that once trust is broken like this, it's almost impossible to repair. Still, I wanted to hear it from her mouth, just once, to see if she'd finally be honest or if I was going to keep living in this hell of suspicion. The most jarring thing was how her attitude changed after I confronted her. She got bitchier, more defiant, as if she thought she could manipulate her way out of it. She started calling me insecure and possessive, like I was the problem, but I saw right through her. It was her who was the problem, and her lies. It was clear she had no intention of stopping, no remorse, just that same old attitude. She's the queen and I'm just supposed to accept her bullshit. I felt this wave of disgust and heartbreak all at once. How did I get here? How did I let it get this bad? Now I sit here, writing this out, trying to make sense of everything. I don't have all the answers yet. I just know I have to decide what comes next. Do I fight for her? Do I forgive her and try to fix what's broken? Or do I cut my losses and walk away? There's a part of me that still hopes she'll own up, that she'll realize what she lost and come crawling back. But honestly, I doubt it. After what I saw, after her attitude these last few days, I think I already know what I need to do. And it's not pretty. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that she wasn't sorry, at least not genuinely. After confrontation, she doubled down on her attitude, throwing around words like controlling and crazy to make me feel guilty. That bitch was good at gaslighting, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew she was lying, playing her games, trying to make me doubt myself. I could see it in her eyes. She thought she was clever, that she could weasel her way out of this mess like she always did. But I wasn't going to be that guy anymore. I decided I needed to take control of the situation. I started planning my next move. I knew I'd have to be careful. If I just showed up at her work or caught her in a lie, she'd deny everything. I needed something concrete, something irrefutable. So I made sure to get the footage of her and mark that night again, just to review and make sure I had every detail right. I also kept checking her phone, looking for any new messages or calls that could prove she'd been meeting him more than just the few times I already knew about. One thing was clear. She was still lying to my face, sneaking around behind my back. She'd text him, call him, plan their secret meetings. That made me furious. I was furious at her, furious at him. The electrician who was supposed to fix our wiring but instead fixated on screwing my wife. I didn't care about the legality or the morality of it all. I just needed her to admit it, to confess, to finally tell the truth. That's when I decided I'd have to catch her red-handed or get her to confess outright. So I set up a few more cameras around the house, especially near her phone and her vanity. I started monitoring her movements more closely. I also noticed she became more dismissive. She'd brush me off if I questioned her, and her tone was increasingly bitchy whenever I brought up her whereabouts. It was like she thought she could keep lying to me forever. I didn't want to be the fool anymore. I wanted to be the one controlling the narrative. If she thought she could cheat and get away with it, she was dead wrong. One afternoon, I followed her to her cousin's house, which turned out to be a complete lie. She was actually meeting Mark at a motel on the outskirts of town. The moment I saw the truck pull in, I snapped a picture. I couldn't believe she had gone that far, leaving the house to meet him for sex in some cheap motel while I was clueless at home. I felt a mix of disgust and heartbreak. I'd trusted her, and she'd been screwing around behind my back all this time. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't let her keep lying, keep playing these games. I also started doing some research about how to handle infidelity legally. I wanted to be prepared just in case I decided to end things. I didn't want to be blindsided if she tried to deny everything or manipulate me into staying. I knew I had enough evidence now to prove infidelity, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to drag her through a messy divorce or try to fix this. Part of me still hoped she'd come clean, but deep down, I knew that might never happen. Cheaters don't change overnight, and she'd already lied so many times I doubted she could be honest now. The emotional toll was brutal. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, wondering if she was with him again. Every glance she gave me was loaded with suspicion. I started to withdraw from her, becoming cold and distant because I couldn't handle the constant lies. I felt betrayed, broken inside, and yet I tried to hold it together. I'd always thought I was a decent guy, worked hard, provided for her, gave her everything she wanted. And she repaid me by screwing the electrician behind my back. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, but I knew there was no explanation that justified this level of betrayal. Then one evening she snapped at me during dinner. She called me paranoid, crazy, said I was accusing her of shit she didn't do. That's when I snapped back, telling her I had enough evidence to bury her if I wanted to. I told her I knew she'd been lying, screwing around, and that I wasn't going to take it anymore. She just rolled her eyes, said I was overreacting, and that I was controlling. But I saw the fear in her eyes for a split second. Maybe she knew I was onto her, or maybe she just realized I wasn't going to be played anymore. That moment was a turning point. I decided I'd hold nothing back. I needed to know how deep this really went, and I needed her to understand I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I had enough. Enough of her bitchy attitude, enough of her lies, enough of feeling like I was walking on eggshells just to keep her happy. I'd lost respect for her, and honestly, I was starting to see her for who she really was. A selfish, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. And that's a dangerous mindset for someone who's supposed to be my wife. Now I'm just waiting for the next move. Part of me hopes she'll come clean, admit everything, ask for forgiveness. But another part knows that's probably not going to happen. I'm trying to prepare myself for whatever comes next, whether it's trying to rebuild the trust or just walking away for good. I don't want to stay in this limbo forever, but I also know I need to be smart about it. My mind is racing, and I feel like I'm on the edge of some big decision. I just hope I find the strength to do what's right, no matter how painful it might be. After days of watching her carefully, I finally felt ready to confront her again, but this time with a plan. I was done playing the silent game, done letting her gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. I needed her to admit it, to face the truth head-on. I knew if I just sprung it on her, she'd deny it, lie her way out of it again, and I'd be right back where I started, confused, hurt, and more betrayed than ever. So I decided I'd corner her in a way she couldn't wiggle out of. That evening, I asked her to sit down. She looked at me with that same bitchy sneer, like she already knew she was going to manipulate her way out of this. I took a deep breath, played the footage I'd saved from the motel, and showed it to her. I had kept it discreet, not letting her see I was watching her all this time. When she finally saw herself in the act, her face went pale. Her eyes widened in shock, then flickered with anger, annoyance, and an almost helpless defiance. "Explain," I demanded, holding up the phone. With the video playing. "Tell me why you're doing this behind my back. Why you're screwing Mark, the electrician who's supposed to be fixing our wiring. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I'd never see this?" Her reaction was classic. She crossed her arms, rolled her eyes, and spat out some bullshit about being stressed, not feeling loved, and it's just sex. She tried to blame me, said I was careless, neglectful, that I didn't pay enough attention to her. That somehow I was the reason she needed comfort elsewhere. I could see her trying to turn the tables, make me the villain in her little soap opera, but I didn't buy it. I told her I knew she'd been lying, sneaking around, betraying me with that bastard. Her face twisted in anger. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck in this boring marriage anymore. Mark makes me feel alive. He does what you never did, fucking listen, caring about me, making me feel wanted. You're just a workaholic who doesn't give a shit about his wife." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Her words, her attitude, they stung worse than anything else. I realized she'd been convincing herself that her cheating was justified, that I somehow owed her for being bored. But it wasn't just the words. It was the tone, the way she looked at me like I was nothing. That's when I finally snapped. "Bitch," I said sharply. "You think sex with Mark makes you feel alive? You think sneaking around, lying to my face, and screwing the electrician who rewired our house makes you anything but a cheating whore? I put up with your attitude, your bitchiness, your lies, all for what? To be played for a fool? No more, I've seen enough, you're done, this marriage is over." She looked at me, eyes blazing with anger, hate, and maybe a hint of fear. She spat back, "You're just jealous, Mike. You don't know what you're losing. I'm better off without you. I don't need your bullshit anymore." And with that, she stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. I sat there, stunned. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. All this time, I'd been trying to believe maybe she'd change, maybe she'd see reason, but no, she doubled down on her lies, on her betrayal. I felt sick. I'd loved this woman, given her everything I had, and she repaid me with cheating and lying. I wondered how I'd let it get this far, how I was so blind to her true nature. In the hours that followed, I started to feel a strange sense of calm, like I'd finally seen the truth clearly. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to stay with someone who thought she could cheat on me, lie to my face, and then dismiss me like I was nothing. I started making arrangements, documents, finances, a plan. I didn't want to get caught off guard if she tried to manipulate her way out of this mess. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing. I wondered if I should try to save this mess or cut my losses. I loved her, but she didn't love me. Or maybe she did, but her selfishness, her need for excitement had blinded her. The pain was overwhelming, but I knew the only way forward was to face it head on. I had to decide whether to fight for what I had left or to walk away from this toxic, broken relationship. The thing I learned from all this: trust is fragile. Once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. And sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away before you lose yourself completely. I'm not sure what's coming next, but I know I'm done pretending. I deserve better than a wife who cheats behind my back, who lies and manipulates just because she's bored or angry. I'll figure out what's next, I have to. But right now I just feel numb, exhausted, and finally free from the lie I'd been living. The days that followed were a blur. I kept busy trying to gather everything I needed: papers, bank statements, a list of all her lies. I couldn't sleep properly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Mark, the way she looked, that smug look on her face when she thought she'd gotten away with it. It was like a heavy weight sitting on my chest, making it hard to breathe. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. For the first time in a long while, I saw everything clearly: her manipulations, her lies, her bitchy attitude, and most of all, her unfaithfulness. I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I knew I had to do something, not just for myself, but to put an end to her game. I reached out to a lawyer I knew from my job, someone who specialized in divorce and infidelity cases. I explained everything: how she lied, cheated, and manipulated me. The lawyer told me what my options were, what I could expect legally, and how to protect myself financially. Honestly, that moment felt like a weight lifted. I realized I'd been hanging on to a toxic relationship, and now I finally had a clear path forward. Meanwhile, Lisa was still acting like nothing had changed. She was bitchy, dismissive, and kept pretending she was the innocent victim. She'd throw tantrums if I confronted her, accuse me of snooping, and call me paranoid. But I'd already seen the truth in her eyes, seen her with Mark, and I wasn't about to let her gaslight me again. I reminded myself I deserved honesty, respect, and loyalty, and if she couldn't give me that, she'd have to face the consequences. One day, I decided to tell her I was done. I sat her down, looked her in the eyes, and told her I had enough. I laid out all the evidence, showed her the footage of her cheating, the texts, the times she lied about where she'd been. I told her I knew she'd been screwing Mark, that I'd had enough of her lies and manipulation. Her reaction: she laughed, a cold, biting laugh. She called me pathetic, jealous, and said I was just trying to control her. That she'd never loved me, only wanted what I could give her, and now she was free to do whatever she wanted. That moment was a breaking point. I realized I'd been trying to save a sinking ship, and it was hopeless. I told her I was filing for divorce. She sneered at me, said she'd fight me in court, and that I'd regret this. But I didn't care anymore. I knew I'd done everything I could to save us, but she didn't want that. She wanted to control, to cheat, to lie, and that's not what I signed up for. I deserved better, and I was finally ready to walk away. The legal process started, and it was a roller coaster. She tried to manipulate me, threaten me, even begged me to stay, promising she'd change, but I saw through her. I knew her game now. She was used to getting her way, used to lying her way out of trouble. But this time I had the truth, and I wasn't backing down. I kept my head high, working with my lawyer, making sure I protected myself financially and emotionally. It hurt like hell to see her go, but deep down I knew it was for the best. I had to cut her loose before she dragged me even further down. In the end, the divorce went through smoother than I expected, probably because I had all the evidence. She fought hard, tried to twist things, but the truth was on my side. I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that I finally freed myself from her manipulations, and sadness over what we'd lost. I'd loved her, believed in us, but she chose her own selfish path. That's a hard lesson, but one I had to learn the hard way. Living alone now, I still feel the sting of betrayal, but I also feel lighter. I don't have to wake up dreading her mood swings or wondering if she's lying. I can finally breathe. I've started working on myself, rebuilding what was broken. I've realized how important it is to trust your instincts, to listen to the little signs when something feels wrong. No one deserves to be cheated on, lied to, or manipulated. I learned that the hard way. Looking back, I wish I'd seen her true nature sooner, but I also know I can't change the past. I can only learn from it. And I hope anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, trust yourself, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the signs. Protect yourself because once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to get back. But at least for me, I've learned that I can survive even the worst betrayals. And I will. Now, a few months removed from everything, I can finally breathe again. It's like I've been waking up from a nightmare I didn't even know I was living. The house feels emptier, but somehow, it's also lighter. Without her constant bitchiness, her lies, her manipulative games, I feel like I can finally clear my head and start rebuilding my life. I won't lie, there's still a part of me that hurts, that wonders how I missed all the signs for so long or why I cared so much to hold on. But mostly I feel relief. I feel free. I've been seeing a counselor trying to process all the anger and sadness. It's helped a lot to get my feelings out in the open, to understand that I didn't deserve to be treated like that. I learned that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to let go of what's toxic, even if it hurts like hell. I've come to accept that I was blinded by love, but that I also have a responsibility to protect myself from people who take advantage of that love. I've learned to listen to my instincts and to trust myself more. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was accepting that someone I loved and trusted could do something so hurtful. That realization changed me. It made me more cautious, more aware of the red flags I'd ignored. But it also made me stronger. I refused to be that fool again, to let someone manipulate or lie. To me, I've started focusing on me now. I've reconnected with friends, picked up old hobbies I'd neglected, and even started seeing someone new. Someone who respects me, who values honesty and loyalty. It's a fresh start, and honestly, I needed it. Looking back, I realize how much I learned from this hellish experience. I learned not to ignore the little signs, like secretive behavior, dismissive attitudes, or that gut feeling that something's wrong. I learned that sometimes, love isn't enough to save a relationship, especially when one partner is fundamentally dishonest. And I learned that walking away, though painful, is sometimes the only way to save yourself. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, I want to say this. Listen to your gut. Trust yourself. Don't let anyone make you doubt your feelings or your worth. If you find yourself constantly questioning, suspecting, or feeling uneasy, take it seriously. You deserve honesty, respect, and love that is genuine. Don't stay just because you're afraid of being alone or because you hope things will get better. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away, even if it hurts. Because in the end, you owe it to yourself to be happy and to be with someone who truly values you. I've come out of this a different man, wiser, more cautious, but also more hopeful. I know now that I can survive even the most painful betrayals. And I also know that healing is possible. It takes time, patience, and a lot of self-love. But the most important thing I've learned is this. Don't settle for anything less than the truth and respect. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. And no matter how dark things seem, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you just have to find it yourself.